remember one comment when your videos, particularly about the do Jews view non-Jews as equal? People were saying how, I mean, people didn't love the answers, obviously, but they said how much more people would lean towards no, non-Jews are unequal if you turn the camera off and ask them again.
No, no, no,
And how,
absolutely not true. No, not
oh, you
true.
don't think so?
This is people projecting. This is another thing that drives me
Sure.
nuts. It drives me nuts, and there's nothing I can do about it because no matter what I say, people want to see what they want to see. No, absolutely not. I have never heard anybody say something different on camera to off camera. They might On camera makes them nervous in the sense of not that the people are going to judge them, that they want to sound intelligent. That's all. That's all it is. So people get nervous about wanting to sound like they're smart. In fact, actually, it's the people with the extreme opinions who get mad at me going, "You're not going to put this in, are you? I know you lefties." They always assume I'm like a left-wing activist. You lefties, you're going to keep this out because you don't want to know the truth. And I'm like, are you kidding? Like the crazy right-wing people are the ones who are like, get the views. No, no, nobody has ever told me anything off camera that they wouldn't say on camera 100%. This is people who so this is another thing. People project what they think they know about Jews or about Muslims or about Palestinians or Israelis onto my videos that make no sense to me and they don't understand that they're all completely wrong. All you people who keep claiming these things, you're full of crap.
Wow.
It's
That's so
not true.
interesting.
I'll give you an example. I will give you an
Sure.
example. I have been in Israel for 30 years. I was with my husband for 20 years. At one point, after I think it was 17 years, a brother-in-law, so it's kind of a hard, like and not a direct relation, but someone I had known already for 17 years said something about Hanukkah. You know, Hanukkah, the holiday? And he started to explain it to me. And I said, "Yeah, I know what Hanukkah is. I'm Jewish." And he said, "You're Jewish?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "But you come from Canada." And I go, "Yeah." And I go, "They're Jews in Canada." He goes, "There are Jews in Canada. Jews come from Morocco. Jews come from Iraq. Jews come from maybe America, maybe." It's a Middle Eastern attitude. These people are Middle Eastern. They don't understand there are Jews in Canada. He goes, "I thought you were a Christian." And so he, for 17 years, had thought I was a Christian. And I'm just saying, like, and I'm laughing. And like, so we made this joke in the family. They would say, Corey's a Jew. Corey's a Jew. And they're like, "Yeah, we know." Because they just don't know because they grew up in a Middle Eastern reality where Jews are from Morocco and Iraq. Like it made no sense to them. A Jew from Canada, that's insane. So people don't are not judgy in that sense about if you're a Jew or not a Jew. Um, they don't care. They really just don't care. Unless you have to marry someone who's religious, then maybe they care. But even then, I know some mixed couples who are, religious. So
That was an interesting video too. The would you marry someone that wasn't, I don't know, I'm trying to remember if
yeah,
you were
yeah. Would
asking
you
Jews
date
this?
someone? I'm re-asking it. Someone asked me to re-ask it, and I love anything to do with sex. I'll ask about it just because I think they're funny and they lead to funny discussions. So I'll ask about it. I'm starting again to ask.
Good. Okay, cool. And what about the casualty numbers in Gaza? When you ask Israelis about that, do they do they know the numbers, or how do they respond directly when you ask them about that usually?
So okay, I don't think they know the numbers as in they know 70,000 like an actual number because it's not well, it's a partial thing. First of all, I don't think they care about what's happening in Gaza. They really don't. They've turned off. They don't care. They see the fault is the Palestinians. Whatever they get is their problem. They brought this on themselves, their problem, which I don't like. I'm a Canadian. I'm a humanist. I know people in Gaza. I do feel bad for some people there for a lot of people who are suffering. Um, and more so, it concerns me about my people, meaning the Jews of Israel, that we've become so unsympathetic. That concerns me as a Jew and as someone who lives in Israel. The other element of this is that most Israelis, I know no one believes me, most Israelis are kind of dumb. Sorry, they're just kind of dumb. They don't really know what's going on all the time. They don't actually watch the news. They get all their information from Instagram and TikTok. They're just as dumb as everyone else around the world, that they don't actually know what's really going on, or let's say statistics, or they don't even know their own history sometimes. So that's another element. So I asked them, "Do you care about the numbers?" They don't know about the numbers. They also just don't care. The part that concerns me is the fact that, well, I mean, I care for their education. That people should be more educated, partially, but more so the lack of empathy and sympathy scares me. And that's a product of being in a conflict for so long, and that's what happens. Palestinians are the exact same. They know nothing about Israelis. They think they know something about Israelis. They know nothing. I hear stories all the time from Palestinians about Israelis that make absolutely no sense.
I'd be so interested to hear your questions asked to Jews in America and see if there'd be any type of,
Yeah, they're
different.
not gonna know either. They're not gonna know. Because look, I'm a Jew from Canada, right? Before I got that interested in Israel, do you think I knew the history? Do you think I knew statistics and data? I had to learn it because I became super interested in it. I have nephews, sister, cousins who are constantly calling me going, "Okay, what's really going on? Wait, what?" And I'll tell them basic facts about things, and they'll go, "Really? Really? That's a thing?" Because they don't know either. And it's not because they're dumb. They're not. I mean, I say these things sort of like meanly, but it just people have other things to do in life, right? This is not their
Mm,
obsession. I'm a weirdo nerd who's obsessed with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, so I tend to remember these things. Most people don't. They know I'm a Jew. I'm supposed to side with Israel. That's what we do. If you're, by the way, if you're an Arab or a Muslim in America or Canada, you're going to feel pretty much the same. And they don't really know all that much.
mm. And when you ask Palestinians what would make them feel safe and free, not about politics, but just about their lives, what do they usually say about that?
Well, the idea of the occupation would make them feel more, meaning if it went away,
Yeah.
would make them feel more free. And by the occupation, I don't mean the settlers in the West Bank. There's this weird obsession, and I'm actually anti-settlement, by the way. I'm a big lefty liberal who I don't think settlements are a good idea. I'm old school, fine. Um, this idea that if you remove all the settlements, it's going to make peace is not really the issue. It's going to help. It'll help a bit, but it's not the huge issue. The bigger thing is them not feeling safe because Israelis have control over their lives. The idea, it's psychological idea more than something practical. Now, of course, there are settlers and soldiers who are making some Palestinians' lives very difficult. Now, if you're a Palestinian, 95% of Palestinians live in urban areas. So if you are that Palestinian who lives inside Bethlehem, in Ramallah, in Nablus, whatever, you don't interact with settlers, you don't interact with soldiers, you don't meet them. Like I ask Palestinians in earlier videos, have you ever met an Israeli? And I'll say, and they'll say yes. And I'll say, where? They go, the soldier at a checkpoint. And I'm like, well, that was a person far off. You didn't even exchange words with them. That's not you didn't meet them. So most Palestinians don't actually interact with Israelis all that often. There are 5% of West Bank Palestinians who live in Israeli areas in the West Bank. And that 60% of the West Bank that's all controlled by Israel. Once you pass from the Israeli controlled part to the Palestinian controlled part, you don't see Israelis or hardly ever. Sometimes the army will come into raid, usually at night, but you don't really see them, you don't interact with them. It is scary. I don't wanna, I'm not gonna say it's not scary. I'm just saying you could easily live in a West Bank Palestinian city and not interact with any Israelis in any way.
Wow. That's so fascinating. For the more extremist answers that you received, what percentage of the population on both sides do you think that actually represents them?
Define the extremist. What do you define as extremist? It's a it's
Yeah,
a it's a it's a
I guess that's
range.
true. That's a good
So
question too. For example, I guess going back to Hamas supporting killing Israelis, would that be like majority of Palestinians believing that?
Well, according to Khalid Shakaki, who does a survey with the PCPSR, oh, I think I got it right this time, Palestinian something something Research Institute. He's a Palestinian. It's 63% of Palestinians believe that using violence is legitimate to with Israelis. 63%. Um, I would say from my interactions, because some of his statistics that I've read don't necessarily make a lot of sense, because there's 40% who apparently sometimes will agree to a two-state solution. But everyone I meet under 40 is against, almost, I shouldn't say everybody, almost everybody, like 95% is against having any peace agreement with Palestinians who are younger. Older people tend to be more open to compromise. Maybe it's because they have children. Maybe it's
Mm,
because they're older and tired. I don't know. Um, so in terms of how often am I going to hear from people, we need to kill Israelis? I'd say like 20% of the time. Then the opposite is 20, 15. I'll give, generously up to 20% of on the other side of I'm willing to compromise with Israel because it gives me something, right? Meaning economically,
mm,
or I'm tired of this war, that kind of thing. That's what the two groups I kind of meet. And then everyone else is in the middle seeing who's going to win. That's kind of my what I feel is happening. This is completely subjective. It's not objective. I don't know. This is what I feel is happening when I meet people.
yeah, because based on that under 40, older 40, am I reading this right? Does the next generation seem more hopeful or extreme?
No, more extreme.
More extreme.
Well, more hopeful in
Yeah.
the sense that violence will kill the Israelis and they'll all leave and go back to Poland. That's how they see it. They want all the Israelis to go to Poland. That's just what they say, even though most Israelis are actually from Middle Eastern countries. Fine. Um, the young people, and it's because they're young and hot headed. I don't know. Are they're much more extreme.
Yeah. And how about for you though, individually? I mean, you've done this for so long. You've heard all these answers. And I think I heard in an interview yours, you don't seem to be or optimistic about the future here.
Oh no, no, not at all. No, it's gonna continue the way it is. It's really sad. They need, both sides need I'm quoting someone else, not my idea. We had a professor, I work at Tel Aviv University. He negotiated with Palestinians. He's not a professor, sorry, he's a lawyer. He negotiated with Palestinians, and his thing is you need a strong leader who's gonna drag everyone with them. So in 1977, Anwar Sadat in Egypt changed his mind about the conflict and said, "Peace is better than war." And he dragged the Israelis into it. They didn't want to make peace with Egypt because they didn't believe it was real, not because they don't want peace, but the Israelis thought for sure this is a trick. You can't trust this person. Now we have an agreement with Egypt for 50 years. Um, Palestinians are harder because we're so integrated. So there's so many places of conflict that can happen to blow up. But you need a leader, and they don't have one, and we don't have one, who will drag people into a better reality, which doesn't include violence and somehow includes the other in some way.
Feeling